Hey everybody, Joe from Home Crush here. In this video we're going to take a look at Meike's newish 50mm T2.2 lens. I thought it'd be useful to compare the 12, the 25, and the 50, the equivalent of a 24, a 50, and a 100, to see how well these three lenses intercut. But first, here's some janky B-roll intro footage. I tried to shoot some really cool B-roll intro footage, but it turns out it's really hard to get that infinite white cyc look in your basement during the pandemic. So a 50mm lens on a 2x crop sensor sits right at the beginning of a useful telephoto range. It's not going to pull in birds or other wildlife, but it yields a very flattering portrait with nice separation from the background and very low distortion. Like all the Meike cinema lenses so far, the 50mm is nice and sharp wide open. Technically it reaches maximum sharpness by T4, but the difference in any real-world image is negligible. I would consider the 50mm to feature on the low side of average chromatic aberration. Even blown up 400%, it didn't show any noticeable fringing on my chrome torture test. Only shooting branches against bright daylight sky revealed some purple and yellow fringing. But even then I had to blow it up to 400% to really notice. And it was trivial to mitigate with a simple qualifier in Resolve. I was surprised by how easily the 50mm flares. The 25mm also flares pretty easily, but any bright light in front of the 50 washes out the image. Indirect sources produce a haze over the entire frame, but point sources produce a pretty sharp starburst. In either case, you must either flag to preserve contrast or use the pollution for creative effect. The 50mm has a minimum focus distance of 20 inches. While certainly not in the macro range, this is close enough to get the shot that narrative filmmakers need, the extreme close-up. As a little experiment, I used Resolve Superscale feature with great results. Take that, Canon. 8K without overheating. All of the Meike lenses exhibit little to no focus breathing, and the 50mm is no exception. Rack on with confidence. As should be expected of a lens at this focal length, the 50mm has effectively no geometric distortion. Yeesh, look at that chromatic aberration on the 25. Definitely that lens's Achilles heel. Even the really wide 12mm only has about 1% of barrel and pin cushion distortion. Easily corrected in Resolve to match. The 50mm barely vignettes, definitely not visible in any real-world images. Even on a flat gray field, I had to jack contrast to highlight it. It's somewhat surprising to me that the 25mm suffers more vignetting than the 12. On a micro 4/3 sensor, 50mm gives a nice tight crop, but isn't so telephoto as to be useless indoors. Juxtaposed with a wide lens, it makes for nice two-camera coverage. As you might expect from the distortion test, the 50mm renders the human face very objectively. So does the 25 frame to the same size. Moving in super close with the 12mm to keep the same framing yields more exaggerated features, which can be used to great dramatic effect. Okay, there you have it. The 50mm is a great addition to Meike's T2.2 cine lens range. You have to make sure that stray light doesn't wash out your image, but other than that, there's very little to look out for with this lens. Like its siblings, it's very neutral. It just gets out of the way and renders a clean image that you can modify however you want, in front of the lens or in post. While there are minor variations between these lenses, I'd have no qualms intercutting between them. The fact that they are all nearly identical in size, and that the focus and aperture gear rings line up, makes swapping them mid-shoot a piece of cake. If you found this video useful, hit the like button below and consider subscribing. And if you're looking to get the most out of your Pocket 4K or 6K camera, consider my Pocket 709 LUT. It utilizes hundreds of individual transforms to give you a very accurate starting point for a Rec 709 grade. Alright, enough shilling. Get out there and crush it.